Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Night Breakdown, as promised on a Sunday. Let's go through all the Cup quarter-final action, Dave. Starting with perhaps the most remarkable game of them all. On Friday, Leicester Riders 94, Surrey 89ers 102. Kuntz still out for Surrey. Battle scored
Say-
three.
Sorry,
Hey,
when you say the most remarkable game of them all, do you mean them all or these four?
I was only meaning these four, but
These
it's
four. It
certainly
probably goes a bit further than that, doesn't it?
it would go beyond those four for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Battle made 3-3, scored 11 points as Leicester led 13-2, and Lloyd had to call a timeout early. Leicester made their first nine three-pointers of the game. They didn't miss one until the middle of the second quarter. And at 6:14 in the second quarter, they were 47-23 up.
Yeah, regression to the mean is a thing,
Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah.
be honest. Um, yeah, I mean, Leicester, if anything, this game was probably summarized by I thought Leicester eventually, and probably even early, even though everything went for them, were just a little bit too hyped for it. They were really up for it, really, because obviously it's a cup quarter final, chance to get to a final, etc. I thought Surrey were too cool for school early.
Mm,
In fact, there was a lovely little vignette coming out of a timeout. I think Lloyd called a timeout at about maybe 13-3, something like that.
mm,
And Polite and Lily are coming out of the timeout having a little chuckle to each other on the
mm.
TV. And I'm thinking, my goodness, do they know they're in a quarter final? Blah
Yeah,
blah
yeah.
blah blah. And thinking, no, I don't know if they quite understand the kind of the significance of the game, but whatever. In fact, they would probably just, I can imagine the whispering being, oh, coach is getting a bit hot, isn't he? Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, we'll get it. Don't worry. And it's really kind of interesting that because, as I say, there's two ways you can go from there. You can,
Mm,
they could have been shook. That could have been, you say it was 47-23. That could have been, 56-30 at half time and
mm,
been done. 58-30 and been done. And they could have been shook because of all the shots Leicester were making. But they are such a methodical group of players. Sorry, they really don't. You said it on the commentary. They really don't change for much.
mm,
And they don't seem to have a panic button in them. Those three guards, and obviously the third guard, Lawrence, is the thing that gives them that little bit extra. Um, and they're basically ruled it out.
mm,
And I think the defense wasn't great early, but it wasn't awful either. Leicester made some shots that you wouldn't want to give them, but their job is to get those shots. They also made some tough ones as well.
mm,
Um, and as I say, Evie came in and made a couple of tough threes. I mean, what really hurt Leicester, I thought, in the first half of the game was that Carey played only about 5 minutes. He got two
mm.
fouls early.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rob, as you can understand, he's given that is probably his sixth man is a point guard. His best bench player is a point guard. And because they were flowing the way they were, he basically was able to sit him down until half time.
Yeah,
Blessing and a curse.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Because I didn't think Kerry really got in the rhythm of the game
He
until.
was a bit antsy, I thought, in the second
Yeah,
half.
well, he's antsy because he's not used to playing 5 minutes in the first half.
Mm,
He's not in the game. His mind, he hasn't got the touches, he hasn't got the rhythm of the game, and then suddenly the game's passing you by.
mm,
And so it's just a little bit out of his equilibrium. And on top of that, as I say, the whole Leicester team, I think, were really, really wired for that game because it's a cup game. Because they have that understanding in Leicester that is probably their best chance of winning something this year.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Surrey's probably the same, but I don't know if necessarily the Surrey guys got that.
No,
I
no.
just thought they played another game. So there wasn't much technical or tactical to it. I mean, Lily started off very slowly, which is always going to kind of hamstring Surrey a little bit because he will be taking a decent proportion of their shots, and but Leicester's offense, 47 points in 14 minutes was
Mm,
devastating.
mm. Yeah, yeah. It was still a 17-point lead at halftime, as you say. It could have been more. They had a little run just before halftime, but then Leicester couldn't make any shots, having made them all in the first 15 minutes, and so he had a 15-4 run to cut it to 67-59, 7 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, and it doesn't half concentrate the mind, doesn't it, when the coach goes in at halftime and says this team's shooting 9 of 11 from the 3-point line
Mm,
or whatever it was,
yeah,
10, 12 or
yeah.
whatever. Because, firstly that, Leicester may not continue to make at that rate. Obviously, that's the law of averages. But on top of that, Surrey are going to be possibly a little bit more focused on the task in hand in
Mm,
relation to, how they play defense. And how they play defense doesn't change how they play offense. They
mm,
are they are an infuriating team to have to guard at the way they're constructed because they are really good in late shot clock situations. They got three guys, Lily, Polite, and Lawrence. Any one of them with half a step, even a quarter of a step, in a late shot clock situation can score.
mm,
So you play 20 seconds of good defense, right? And suddenly they're scoring, or Small's getting a cheap layup at the rim because everybody's looking at him, or Graham's getting an offensive rebound, And um, I thought Leicester basic, well, I mean, the numbers say it. I think what they give it 60 in the second half, 58 in the
yeah,
second half, something like that.
62.
62. So Leicester couldn't find a way of stopping them. And the only question was when Surrey had their run, would that blow them out, and would they then
Mm.
be Leicester be then able to step up and
Well, the first one certainly didn't because they had a second one, which was 17-4 around the final break. That put them 78-81 in front. If I'm honest with you, from that point onwards, they always looked like winning. Tyrone Lawrence and Polite saw the moment, I thought, reasonably
Lawrence
comfortably.
Lawrence in particular, just has that swag about him without being boisterous, about he feels that he's comfortable getting into the lane. He's got the little fadeaway 15-footer. He's got the footwork. He's a lefty, which is always a benefit, I think. He's got the long arms to sweep around for the layup. And and you can say on your scouting report, right, we'll take away Polite. We'll try and, make Lily shoot as many tough shots as we can. And then there's the third guy.
Mm,
I think that hurt them. I also think, as I say, I thought Leicester, and I think you're right, Leicester were antsy. I
mm.
thought Carey was particularly antsy, and I think only playing 5 minutes in the first half was a
He
problem.
also seemed to
Well,
he got upset at some calls and he sort of let that affect him, or some non-calls and let that.
it's a long time, Dan. When if you, I can't remember his first two fouls. I don't remember anything particularly atrocious about them, but I might be wrong. I don't because I didn't. I wasn't. I was watching this game when I came back, so I wasn't that fixated on them. But 15 minutes in the first half,
Mm.
plus all the stoppages, is a long, and then the half time is a long
Yeah,
time to sit
yeah,
there thinking about how you've been done dirty by a ref,
yeah, yeah,
or how things are against you, and then you got to get into it and all that stuff. Um, but they just have a really cohesive unit, sorry, offensively. And as I say, it's tough to make shots repeatedly with if you're Leicester, if you're constantly picking the ball out of the basket.
mm,
And if they are demoralizing baskets, late shot clock, that little step through layup that Polite's got, where
mm,
you don't think he's going anywhere, and suddenly he's at the other side of the rim laying it in. Or Lily pulling up, making another tough shot, and he's in rhythm. It, it it just became a bit difficult. And then Rob had to decide with Carey and Evie because Evie hardly played in the second half.
mm,
So you got to decide: do I go with Carey? Do I go with Evie? And that's the downside of having three really talented guards, American
mm,
guards, is that Johnson's playing so well, you don't want to sit him down because he's just stabilised and he's making shots. So then you've got to make the decision between Evie and Carey. And up until kind of a little bit of silliness in the last minute and a half, I agreed with you.
mm,
There was a flow to Surrey's offense, which was just um, you didn't see breaking. You didn't see Leicester
mm,
breaking it.
yeah. As you say, Kerry hit a couple of threes, and then there was a turnover. Leicester did get it to four, but they always looked like
Yeah,
they had enough, and they made the free throws when they needed to as well.
yeah. I mean, I think on that turnover, I don't think he did get hit in the head. I
No,
think
I think he fell back onto
fell
the
back
leg.
and hit
Yeah,
on
yeah,
somebody's
yeah,
knee. So
yeah.
I understand what Rob was saying, but it ultimately was a good play to make the turnover. And I did think, I was watching it thinking, why are you giving up threes? You're up 10, you're up 8.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kerry's coming off, you're not giving up threes. Twos don't beat you. We've been through that conversation
Mm,
before. So there was a little kind of flutter from Surrey. But as I say, they have a kindly kind of swag about them,
mm,
those guards. And as I say, I can just imagine that conversation coming out. The coach is tripping again. Yeah, okay,
Mm,
or that type of stuff. And I might be totally wrong about that. I have no idea, but it just seemed that the kind of inbuilt confidence was there. And as I say, I thought at the end probably Leicester pushed a little bit too hard, lost their composure a little bit, and ultimately you win those games on the defensive end. It doesn't matter if you're up 24, whatever. You win by getting stops, and they didn't really get many stops in the second half.
no. Battle 18, Johnson 17, Loving 15. They ended 13 of 27 for three. So four of 18 after the first 15
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Polite 23, 5 of 8, 6 assists. Lily 19 and 11 assists. Small 18. Got some
I think
stats for you, Dave.
just on that, but yeah, I think I
Yeah.
said last week, didn't I? Again, trying to prove myself right again, because nobody else does.
Mm.
How nice it was to have kind of scoring guards who are assist makers as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Three
yeah.
guards, they do look for each other. Plate's got 6 assists, Lily's got 11, Lawrence will have a few as well.
Mm.
That's a massive thing because that means you're getting better shots and they like it means more important than anything else.
They like each
They
other.
like playing with each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I thought you got that impression in the game. I'm not saying players don't like playing with each other, but they're always push me, pull you factors as to who's getting
Mm.
shot. But if you're all giving up the ball to each other to get the best shot, and you're going deep in the shot clock to do that, that makes for a happy team and
Mm.
that a confident team.
Mm. So, since Livestat started logging biggest leads in
Mhm.
2016, Surrey's 24 points is the biggest deficit overturned to win a game. Ironically, the previous record was jointly held by Leicester, coming from 23 down to beat Surrey.
Let's not always
Also,
be sorry. Do you think this is just some form of karmic comeuppance from
yeah, well, but
like
it's only in the
yeah,
cup. They haven't beaten Leicester in any other competition. They've
just
won
twice?
two, won two and drawn in the three cup games, and Leicester have won all the league and trophy games.
Since the
Um,
turn of the decade, to turn of the
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, so it was the biggest win in Leicester by a Surrey-based team
Yeah.
since April 2008, when the Heat beat the Riders 82-99 at John Sanford. Obviously, only 8 points, but in that time they've only won about twice. Um, 62 points in the second half is the most points in a half by a Surrey-based team. Since the Scorchers had 69 against the Knicks in February 28,
The story, yeah,
2018,
story base is
2018.
discovering Guildford, isn't it? It's Guildford.
Yeah, it's the Niners, the Scorchers, and all the way back to
I
the
mean,
Heat
there's
and
nobody else, is
United.
there? There's nobody else.
No, no, no.
Brighton is in Sussex, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Basically, I can't say sorry because it's a
Yeah, because
different. The Scorchers is a different thing, but yeah, but I'm calling them the same.
that win in 2008 will have probably been the Euro Cup season.
2018. Sorry, I said that.
Or
I said
the
that
one
wrong.
before.
2018. Yeah. So you'll like this one, Dave.
Yeah,
You'll
come
like
on.
this one. Leicester scored 57 points in the first half. Surrey scored 62 points in the second half. So that's one basket, seeing 119 points scored. That's the most a single basket has had in a game since December 22, which was the Cheshire Manchester game. They had 122. Of the 14 games since 2009 with 119 points or more in a single basket, this was fourth highest by percentage. So 60.7% of the game's total points was at one end of the floor.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just actually, I'm not proud of you. I just admire it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, oh, that is, yeah, I never thought that. I have to say, I do worry what would have come up if I'd produced one of those, a stat like that in an Eagles scouting session.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'd have probably been thrown out of the
Glazed,
room.
glazed looks everywhere.
Please look,
See, just
don't
because
come back for another couple of years, please.
Philip Brown asked on Twitter as well.
All right.
That's obviously with 119 minimum. Just for those who want to know, and I'm sure there's more than Philip who wants to know. The most a single basket has scored in the time I've got quarter scores, which is 2009-ish, was 66.9%, which was a playoff semi-final second leg in 2013, Leicester 76, Plymouth 60. The first half was 24-39. The second half was 52-21. So 91-45, one basket to the other. That's mad,
Where at?
really.
Where was that at?
It would have been Loughborough, I would have thought.
At Loughborough.
Yeah, I would have thought so. 2013, I think they
Yeah,
were.
it was Leicester. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no, what did with that
could have
one?
been John Sanford actually. Is it?
No,
Were they? I can't remember when they went to the.
I think that'd be Loughborough.
I think it'd be Loughborough.
Because 2011, 2012, we played a playoff game in Loughborough. So I'm guessing that was it.
Yeah, it'd be Loughborough.
Yeah, even Rob must have put the lights on,
Mm.
something. One end. Oh, that's that. This is why we come.
Yeah, yeah.
The ever dwindling band who do come. This is why they're ever dwindling.
Let's go. Well, I think we'll be slightly not quite as many stats in this next one. Newcastle Eagles 68, London Lions 94. No Jonathan Williams or Price for London. Lucas Shunas was back. First start of the season for Tariq Phillip and also John D. Brown, but he's not been there. He's only been there a couple of games, so not quite the same. London scored the first 8 points of the game. Eagles didn't get their first field goal until the middle of the first quarter. And once they got double figures in front before the end of the period, it never came down to single figures after that.
It's just round two of the rope a dope, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
keep them happy until
Yeah.
and then unleash fire in the final.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, no, it wasn't. I mean, to be fair, this was, I thought, the most winnable of the three games for Newcastle.
Yeah.
They had played in Latvia on Wednesday night, which is some mitigation given that, Latvian flights back to Newcastle aren't the easiest. Albeit London and London, very unfortunately for Newcastle, had a devastating and
Yeah.
demoralising loss on the buzzer in Euro Cup, which
Yeah.
desperately hoping they would win, not necessarily for their benefit, but for Newcastle's.
Yeah.
Because they played ever so well, and Tariq Phillip took over down the stretch in that
Yeah.
game, and then to lose on two missed foul shots by your point guard, followed by an overturned out of bounds, followed by an offensive rebound off an air ball
Yeah.
with zero point 0.2 of a second to go. I mean, it doesn't get
No.
much more devastating,
Heartbreaky than that.
heartbreaking than that. And so knew fine well that there's no way in the world that Shavar Reynolds was turning up and mailing this game in.
Mm.
He just missed the two foul shots. Um, albeit you might say it might have been karma for the offensive foul call in Germany a few months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
that was against Chemnitz though,
It was
rather than
against
all.
somebody else, but yeah, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you win the close ones, you lose the close ones, you just
Yeah.
bounce out. But that was still a devastating loss to them. So I thought London would come up with it with probably more focus than maybe they otherwise would have, because obviously when they beat Besiktas, they then lost to Tottenham Manchester.
Mm.
Manchester are different than Newcastle because they have more off the bounce scoring talent,
Mm.
and that's kind of what you need. And to keep attacking London's defense, because London's defense is very aggressive. And I thought London were exceptional. I was balancing my admiration for them with my frustration with Newcastle at times.
Mm.
Um, they're in a kind of a difficult, but London's the biggest thing about London is it's noticeable their defensive intensity. And I talk about defense more than anybody probably on any podcast or in any conversation ever, because it's not important, it's not sexy, but it is really important. They pick up their pickup points are further away from the basket than anybody else.
Mm.
Newcastle were not able to get the ball within kind of a step of the 3-point line. They're extending their defense to 30, 35 feet and pressurizing there, and pressurizing appropriately without fouling. Occasionally they are physical, so they do foul a little bit, but but they've got bodies to rotate in, so it's not a problem. But pressurizing appropriately and having the backside rotation, so they know there's somebody behind them, so they can push up a little bit more and pressure a little bit more. And it's not a question of continuity, because they're new players every week.
Mm.
It's a question of mentality. It's from my perspective, and understanding and commitment to each other. And I think in Euro Cup in particular, you have to do that stuff, otherwise you're going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
I just think you're going to get destroyed. So I think London are playing a kind of different basketball to basically everybody else. And having watched the Cheshire Sheffield game today, they're definitely playing a different type of basketball to that. And that, and to me, what they're doing is playing winning basketball, because they're squeezing the life out of the opposition. Certainly, they have done that with Newcastle twice in a row, and therefore reducing the risk of something happening which takes them out of the game, dodgy refs calls or,
Yeah,
dodgy bounces or whatever
yeah, yeah.
at the end of the game. So a lot to be said for London. I also got to meet Lens. Hello, Lens.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Nice.
next time, wait until we've beaten you before you come up and have a word.
Mm,
But no, so he was there too, which is it's always nice to see someone travel 300 miles to watch a game.
mm,
Even if it was a game for about a quarter and a half.
yeah.
Um, so then there's Newcastle, and Newcastle have this, they start basically when Taylor comes off the bench, he is impactful,
Mm,
right? When Taylor is starting the games, he's not particularly impactful, right? But when he comes off the bench, he needs to be impactful because the starters aren't getting it done.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So you're in that kind of betwixt and between thing with him, which is you're actually being more, he had 8 of 10 of Newcastle's 14 points in the first quarter. It wasn't for him.
Mm, mm,
They could have been weren't the single figures. Um, but what they're doing by starting Burden, Jack, and Hammond, you've basically only got one guy who can really dribble.
mm,
Jack is a driver. He's a driver to score, not to pass. Hammond is a shooter to score, not to pass. So, and neither of them is a particularly enthusiastic offensive rebounder. Right? So Newcastle's early offense in various games, and they played a game in Latvia in the week, and they were down 13-3, maybe something like
mm,
that, 13-3, something like that, against a team that they probably could have and should have beaten, and they lost by 2 or 3 at the end, or maybe a bit more at the end. But Newcastle's early offense was not what it needs to be to beat a team like London. You have to get better shots. If Cole Long is shooting 17-foot fadeaway twos, you ain't going to beat them.
no, no.
No, and because Cole Long might make 1 or 2 of those shots, but that is not an efficient shot in any way, shape, or form. And Mace, the first play of the game, Maceo Jack, 18-foot contested 2-point jump shot off his left-hand dribble. Again, you might make them, but you're not getting them off a pass, you're not getting any paint touches, and you're not getting any pressure on the defense. And they didn't throw the ball inside. So their offense was really quite stagnant at times, albeit, they did miss some open shots as well, and that might be legs from the trip and all that stuff. So I give it a little bit of leeway for that. What frustrated me more about Newcastle was their defense. They played this team 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and we all looked at them and thought, well, they've got these big guys inside, and every time Newcastle switch on the screen, they're working the ball inside, and no one can guard Ethan Price because he's 6'10", and I can't remember if Williams played in that game or not, but basically they were able to, you know, live at the rim. Yeah. And in this game, the points in the paint at halftime was 30-4,
Mm,
right? And I'm looking at Aaron Rye taking 3 dribbles in the post to back down Ratio and Taylor, and nobody,
coming to help.
coming to help, including someone who's, for instance, guarding Kieran Sandy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Kieran Sandy can make shots. Like Kieran Sandy, you wouldn't want to probably dare him to shoot. But if it's a question between Aaron Rye, backing down a guy who's 6'2" to the front of the rim, that's a 95% layup.
Mm,
Um, Kieran Sandy shooting a three might be a 35%, 40% shot.
mm,
And you might have a chance of forcing a rotation, maybe a turnover, something like that.
mm,
And multiple points in this game, Sandy was playing the center, or was being guarded by Eagles center, so like Canway, or I'm not sure if Darius guarded him a little bit, whatever. And it's like, forget about him. Defend the paint.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Defend the paint. And if they and now the corollary to that is at the beginning of the third quarter, London knocked down 4 threes in a row. Yeah. But the threes they knocked down were rhythm threes. It was like Dean Williams off the pick and pop. It was Lucas Schoenis in the catch, on the handoff. It was defendable stuff. It wasn't stuff which came from rotation to the rim. And I'm like, you cannot win a basket. I don't care what kind of basketball game you played in. I think we proved this last week when Eagles had 13 more threes in Bristol and still lost.
Mm, yeah.
Can't win a basketball game if you're getting doubled up in the paint,
Mm,
let alone 7.5 times up. There's
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
even a word for that.
Yeah, yeah.
30-4 in the first half on the basis of, an uncrowded lane. And I don't see and we talked about it when I was frustrated last week about their loss to Manchester and some of the lack of connectivity on defense. And Stuart mentioned it in his game preview, I think, one of the game previews. about it. Those exact words, lack of connectivity on defense. Um, but I'm still not seeing people have each other's backs.
Mm.
The only one, Darius, obviously, when Darius is in there, is helping more than anybody else because he's trained to do it, he's used to doing it. And he doesn't particularly want to run around the perimeter.
Mm.
Cole Long will help when he can, and Cole Long just I really like him as a sort of defender. But everybody else, it's like, you got to make decisions at some point in a game, and you've got to decide that, Aaron Rye is not going to shoot three layups from under the rim. And
Mm.
it's and now there was two times Newcastle played aggressive defense in the whole first half, and it was they run a little play. Basically, Shavar Reynolds, when he had Mitch Clark on him, they run this little play to get him the ball on the post on the block, about little UCLA cut to get him the ball about 15 feet from the basket on the wing, and because he knows he can come off a little curl to the middle and maybe throw a lob or something. On both occasions, Darius went across there and trapped him hard.
Mm.
On one of them, we had the most ridiculous inadvertent whistle in history, when there was 5 seconds to go on the shot clock, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was whistled for no reason. And to be fair, if I was Stuart at that point, having not been able to get stopped the whole first quarter,
Yeah.
having got them exactly where you want them, I think I'd have blown my stack as well.
Mm.
I mean, we can't be having referees blowing whistles without knowing what they're going to call.
Mm.
And again, it's one of the young referees. And I think the younger referees are at this point reaching the point whereby um, this is happening too often. They need to be refereeing lower level games. They need to have more repetition of the games because you can't. That's it. That's penalising a actual good bit of defense, a double on the ball, a trap, 5 seconds on the shot clock, someone's bouncing it around their feet, and the ref just blows his whistle, and everybody looks and says, "What?"
Mm.
You can't do that. That's an impactful decision. Um, but outside of that, they were the only two times that you actually saw any kind of decision making or any kind of commitment to something. And I was, and watching a team, and the other thing about it is obviously if you're picking the ball out of the basket off layups,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
you're not scoring on London.
No, no,
There's
you're
no
right.
broken plays. There's no threes in
No.
transition. You're having to walk the basketball up the court, and your offense is late. Now that was the first thought. Now I don't know what they're going to change for next week. Obviously, it's a final next week, and no one wants to be destroyed in the final. They got to find a way of keeping London away from the rim. And maybe hoping for a little bit of shooting variance at
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
Maybe
Then,
hope.
then they've got no chance at 94.
No, no chance in negative. And they had 48 or 50 at half time.
Yeah, yeah,
Look, Dan, London aren't Cheshire. They're not playing fast,
yeah, yeah.
right? They're not. They're
Mm.
playing surgically. And, the points, and they only gave up 10 points in the paint in the second half. Which was obviously slightly better. And the first play of the second half, they threw the ball inside to Canway, who had, because London were playing basically without a centre. Threw the ball inside to Canway, he spun, he dunked it.
Mm.
Then I was watching the whole first half. I'm looking at Darius or Emmanuel Canway's on the court with Kieran Sandy guarding them, and they're not throwing the ball in the post.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, that's a potential. And then Darius gets a ball in the post, he throws it across the court to Candy. Candy gets a three. That's a way of creating offense.
Mm.
You're throwing the ball. Newcastle have to find a way to get paint touches. Doesn't matter how they do it. If they don't get paint touches against London's length, they have no chance.
Mm.
Then they've got to be a bit more creative on defense and take London away from what they're going to do. Second half was a bit of a non-event.
Yeah, I got nothing
Um,
written down.
oh, well, there you go. But in that case, it was the definition of a non-event.
The only thing after the first quarter, and it was actually in the first quarter, was the somewhat interesting warnings for the two coaches near the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, there was a bad 3-point shot call for in Newcastle's favour,
mm,
I thought. Ray Sean Taylor kind of
mm,
got caught and kind of threw one up underarm.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
thought Sabonis kind of there was Stuart had already had a warning for
yeah,
maybe that 5 second for that inadvertent whistle thing, and
mm,
Sabonis then quite properly blew his stack at the three foul shots because
yeah,
there's no
yeah.
way in the world that was a
No
three.
way, it
I mean, I
wasn't.
don't know. I haven't watched the
Yeah,
replay, Dan.
no, it was. It wasn't.
I
It
mean,
wasn't.
I haven't watched the replay, but just
I felt for both of them on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So Burden 12, Hammond 12, Taylor 11. They were 38% field goals. Adamo 17, Brown 15 and 6 rebounds, Williams 13, 5 of 6 shooting. They were 55% from the floor and 8 of 16 from three.
Yeah, I mean, it was just almost like a training session game, you know. And the two, if you're the underdog, if you're the lesser group, and they are obviously the lesser group, they're a lesser finance group by multiples of significant numbers, you know,
Mm,
and they're playing the same effective schedule. You have to be the insurgent.
mm,
You have to find a way to kind of do something different. For instance, Cheshire are insurgents because
yeah.
and do it by the way that they're doing it and by employing the chief, insurgent who wouldn't be out of place in the Mujahideen playing
Mm,
point. That's a reference to like I don't even know what the Mujahideen was. It was Afghanistan 30 years ago, whatever. Don't pull me up historically or say I'm racially profiling, whatever. But you need to be an insurgent. You need to find a way of disrupting, right? And you can't play these guys possession for possession. If you play them possession for possession, doing the dance on the court, you're going to lose. So you've got to get funky. You've got to throw stuff at them. If it's a box and one, if it's a 3-2 zone, you got to kill them on the offensive glass. You've got to beat them on the effort plays. You've got to take charges. You've got to get in their face. And Eagles have a lot of guys who kind of look at each other as opposed to looking at the opposition in the eye,
yeah.
And it's tough because it's London because about them. But at some point in time, losing has to hurt enough whereby you're going to show it publicly that it's hurting enough. And I'm not sure that it necessarily is at the moment. I'd like to say that. And even if it's futile, I think at the moment all the emotions coming from the coach, and there has to be some coming from the players.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's move to today. Uh, and I think this is the Gorton and Denton constituency. I'm sure this was the biggest news coming out of that constituency today. Manchester basketball 92, Bristol Flyers 67. Osborne is still out. Slow start to this game, but then Manchester got going and Bristol didn't. It was 18-5 after 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, the difference in this game was Manchester had shot makers and Bristol didn't,
Mm.
you know. I will give a shout out to Matt Nicholson,
Yeah,
27.
he was really good.
Well, the thing is, with us the boy not playing, he has to play more. And
Mm,
players generally play better when they play more.
mm.
If they don't play better when they play more, they're not going to be around for, let's be honest. Um, but Manchester have now fitted into him, particularly defensively. And the one thing I'll say about Manchester, I don't think individually some of their guards are overly interested in defense,
Mm,
but there is a scheme there, right? And that scheme there is a drop coverage, and Matt Nicholson is going to be, six on the charge circle basically.
mm,
And if you come in within that area, if you try and post him up, his job is to defend and get defensive rebounds. And that's very different to basically anybody else in the league. Nobody else in the league has got a 7-footer. Brody's 6'9", but they play him in different ways. And nobody else has got a 7-footer. Deloach 6'9", 6'10", maybe. Nicholson's genuine 6'11" and 3/4. And
I feel obliged to throw out Menzies and Ling, but
Menzies and Lingier were their backups. My bad.
okay, yeah,
They're
yeah,
backups. They're coming off the bench and they're playing. They're playing. They're not. I don't think Menzies or Ling has played 27 minutes in a game this season. Maybe Menzies in one of the games
Menzies, I think
when Martin was out,
when
maybe.
Martin was out, yeah,
But what Nicholson is so it's somebody you have to adapt for, you have to game plan for offensively. You have to know where he's going to be, and you have to pick your poison that way. And the way you do it is that you come off screens and you shoot the 15-footer. He's
mm,
giving you the 15-footer, right? Um, or alternatively, if you can stretch it out long enough, you can come off a screen and shoot a three. Okay, but those are the shots that are there, and we've talked about this before. It's very different to Osborne, who's up there challenging you all the time. And it happened with Newcastle on last week. It happened today with Bristol. Zach Anderson at one point in this game, I think maybe in the third quarter, head down,
mm,
head down straight into him. But no, you got to pull up and shoot the 15-footer.
mm,
You're not going to, he is the one guy in the league that if you challenge him at the rim, when he's in good position, he is long enough whereby, he is going to stop you.
Mm,
and he's probably not going to foul you. So he was a plus 25 in this game, something like that. It wasn't a coincidence. Um, so I'll give him a shout out, and I, and they're playing him within his limitation, and the other guys are now getting used to it. And of course, the guards like it again because us boys not handling the ball as much.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So Nicholson's down on the baseline, so suddenly you're back into a kind of that three-headed monster
Mm,
of Smith, Jones, and Johnson. Yeah, and they're comfortable. They appear to be comfortable.
mm,
And at Bristol, and this never made enough shots. But they shot
no.
4 of 24, 5 of
4
20,
of 24, yeah.
4 of 24 from three. They're not a team which is a dominant inside scoring team.
Mm,
Um, Cam Holden had one of his kind of downside games. He scored 1.6 assists.
mm,
Um, and Max Jones was ready to play. And then when Max Jones sits down and Jordan Johnson comes in and Jordan
mm.
Johnson does what he does in his herky-jerky style and makes plays. And it was routine, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 18-2 run in the second quarter where both Smith and Jones hit back-to-back threes, and it was 46-21, and that was essentially the game.
Yeah.
Uh, Jones 23, Johnson 14, Cleary 12. Everybody scored 14 of 27 by contrast from 3-point range. Joe Anderson 25 points, 11 in the fourth quarter, and 4 steals. Walsh was 5 of 7 for 11 points. Brody 10 points.
I mean, it is a little bit stylistic because if you remember I'm sure you do remember word for word the game I commentated on against
There was
Bristol.
a lot of words in there, Dave.
Not a word in it. But they gave up 13 and 25 threes to Newcastle through three quarters.
Mm,
The reason that they were in that game was because Newcastle couldn't defend the paint
mm,
because they were getting back. They had 50 odd points in the paint. They were getting the back cuts, if you remember.
yeah,
All that
yeah.
stuff. Well, they weren't getting that against Nicholson.
No.
That's why he's the determining factor in that game, not the guards. He was because they weren't able to score at the pin. That means they have to make shots. And I was having a look just on the stats before we came in. They're not a. They only have one guy shooting over 35% from three.
Mm,
And you wouldn't think that because they can all shoot, and that's obviously McCormack, who's way up
mm,
in the stratosphere. But the rest of them, Zach Anderson's at 35%, Joe Anderson's like 32%, Jonathan Brown's 25%, Yoakum's maybe 32%. Which means that if you have a bad day, you've not got a guy who's just gonna, you've not got a guy who's gonna come
yeah,
4 or 5 in a row.
yeah.
And if you have a bad day against Manchester when you're giving up threes to them, then it's not close.
No.
So yeah.
Let's go to the final game. Sheffield Sharks 100, Cheshire Phoenix 103. Cohn was back, Lindo was back. Another game with a slow start, but then it was Policelli and Williams trading threes. Then Dirk helped Sheffield out to a 20-13 lead late in the first quarter.
Yeah, Cameron was out. He didn't play in this game.
Oh, I haven't got him listed down. How did I miss that? Yes, sorry, apologies.
Well, yeah.
So I should say full disclosure. Full disclosure. I listened to this game whilst driving back to Manchester, so there were a few bits that I missed, but I obviously watched the end when I
Yeah,
got home. But most of mine was audible rather than visual.
not sure how much clearer that would have made it for you. There's some I mean, it's a fascinating game as it ever is, and Sheffield v Cheshire is, kind of rolled up enough drama for the last two games
Mm,
combined.
mm,
Um, there was obviously there's history, and there's a recent history, and there's a little bit of animosity. Um, so you're always on the lookout for that. There was an
mm,
interesting point in the first quarter. Um, there's a shot. I think Sheffield maybe make a three. Deluge basically throws Rideau to the ground on the offensive rebound. Um, Ref calls an unsportsmanlike foul. Young ref hands up unsportsmanlike foul. Um, by the time they've got to the bench, and we didn't see it on the TV, but there wasn't any foul shots, and Rideau sat down. I think so. It's pretty clear. I didn't look at the stats, but I'm pretty sure it was a double unsportsmanlike that was called.
okay.
Because there's no shot, there's no stats, and Rideau had two fouls. And for once, I thought Le Quincy was very harshly done by,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I thought, I didn't see that he did anything to warrant an sportsnight foul. No, I'll get to why that's interesting later on because there's a couple of players in this game which ultimately decided it, which were fascinating. So Paul. I mean, this. I hate to say it, Dan, but this everybody in that gym would have gone home thinking, "What a fantastic basketball game."
Mm. But you weren't in the gym, Dave.
Oh, well, my little black. I'm looking.
Yeah,
The first half was an NBA game,
yeah,
but in the NBA, you have a wider court, and you're not allowed to stand in the middle of the key
yeah.
defensively, right? So there's no ex from my perspective, there's no excuse from Sheffield. Sheffield allowing Frankie Policelli to walk into 4 threes
Mm,
in the first 5 minutes.
mm.
There's similarly no excuse in relation to Dirk Williams being in exactly the same situation.
Yeah, yeah,
These weren't complicated actions that were being guarded. This was individual KYP, know your personnel,
mm,
find out what you're going to do. And I thought neither team showed any real interest in guarding anyone.
mm,
Um, and yeah, okay, great to watch back and forward, but it makes the game into something. It makes the chances of winning into something of a lottery. Um, Anything before halftime you want to talk about?
there was a 22-8 spell around the quarter break that made it 28-35, and they stayed in front till halftime. Cheshire, Sheffield leveled it at the
Well, just on the half. I
start
mean,
of the
yeah. I
third
mean,
quarter.
here's the summary. Dan. I mean, if it wasn't the rest of the game,
Yeah, yeah.
the end of the first
Kern.
half scrambled my brain.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
Because firstly, I think you had Kern going way too early on the last
mm,
possession,
yeah, yeah,
making a
yeah,
layup.
yeah,
Right? And we'd already had Robinson telling Nixon he was too small, and then Nixon coming back and
yeah,
scoring in his face and
yeah.
talking to him. So there's all going on, and it's just all that
Machismo.
machismo crap, which I'm not a fan of. I mean, I
I know you're not.
why it's popular. I get why players do it. I
Yeah.
understand it. It's just not me. So be it. I'm like, really, come on, get on with it. You talk when you've won, not whilst you're winning. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Or you talk if somebody talks to you. So I don't really as much with, with Nixon and Ron, whatever. Um, but anyway, you mustn't back down, but you also, you keep you don't lose focus. That's the biggest
mm,
thing. You can't lose focus to win individual battles. So Kern goes ridiculously early, makes a layup, right? Robinson then goes ridiculously early, 5 seconds, makes another layup, makes a layup. He may have even flexed at that point. I
mm,
can't remember.
yeah,
Kern then comes down, makes a three, on the buzzer. Everything, you don't know that. And I stood there thinking that's three possessions that should never have occurred.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, one of them should have
One
occurred.
of them
The other
should have,
two,
yeah.
yeah,
But the things that happened in those three possessions, two
yeah,
shouldn't have occurred, and the thing that happened in the third one should never happen either.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that was the nature of the game. That
yeah,
summarized
yeah,
the game.
yeah.
The strategic side of it was being subjugated to the, as you say, the machismo side of it, and to
Mm,
the talent. It's very unfair to start talking about.
mm,
I'm not saying these guys aren't talented. These guys are uber talented.
mm,
They are really are the skill level of these players who are able to make these shots, and Policelli pulling up from anywhere, and
mm,
and Robinson getting to the rim and going to his limit, scoring on anybody. I don't know what size they are, and the same with Dirk, just
mm,
making knocking down threes like he's just picking blueberries in a field. And I
mm.
don't know why I chose blueberries, but there you go.
I
Um,
don't think they're in fields, are they?
no, I don't
Blueberries.
feel
I
like
think
that
they're in.
bushes, are they? Yeah,
Yeah,
blueberries, bushes,
yeah,
whatever. But all of that stuff, strawberries are in fields, aren't they?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, mixed
Forever.
metaphors. I'll live. That's very good. I'll live. Um, but overall, it left me a little bit cold, although it did leave me very intrigued as to what was going to happen.
So,
Then
so,
what happened?
so after all these bloody skillful players doing their skillful things, unchallenged,
Yes.
seemingly the key run of the game came in the third quarter when Cheshire scored 15 points in without reply to lead 64-82.
Have you not got a stat about the first half points? Was that not a lot of first half points? 117 or something like that?
I,
106.
I go to Cheshire most Sundays, mate. That's
That's
what I call half time.
yeah, fair enough. Well, no, having said all of that stuff,
The stat from half time that
yeah,
I did notice was zero turnovers for Cheshire.
yeah, which again is
Yeah,
is
it's
is
mind
pretty
blowing.
given the speed they play.
Mm,
They're not like they're London, and it's mind blowing. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's kind of indicative of a little bit of Sheffield, I'm afraid.
mm, mm.
It really is. That's not good. You know, as it's like the offensive rebounding in Newcastle last week, one or two are going to fall into your hands
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah,
right place.
yeah,
But the thing is, Cheshire don't pass the ball. So Cheshire go off the dribble. Cheshire, they have very few passes and they set very few screens. Yeah. So they're not getting illegal screens. They're playing you one on one. They're challenging you to help off so they can kick the ball out for a shooter.
mm,
Okay. Teams have now determined that for whatever reason they're not gonna help off
mm.
shooters, which is why Robinson's having the time of his life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
able to catch the ball and go down the middle, and there's never a second guy there.
Mm,
Okay, so because of that, there are less opportunities for turnovers with Cheshire than there are with anybody else.
mm,
So that's one of the advantages of playing individualized basketball. If you're one on one, late shot clock, then you rely on your guy better than the other guy, and it's the only way you're going to get turnovers is if you force steals or you help smartly. And
mm,
these nearly everybody's now under instructions not to help at all.
mm,
I think they've gone too far with it, to be frank. I think they've gone too far with it in relation to the panic in relation to helping under the rim. I think there's got to be a middle ground whereby you can't give a guy five or six, you can't give a pro five or six dribbles one on one in the middle of the floor.
mm,
Not a pro who's particularly skilled at it as well.
mm,
So, but what happened in the third quarter was this game was won by Skylar White, and it wasn't
mm,
Skylar White offensively. Skylar White played defense in the third
mm,
quarter,
mm,
unlike anybody else in the whole game. He challenged shots at the rim. He was in the right place. He bodied people up. They didn't. He blocked one. He was there. He was Nicholson for a quarter.
mm,
He was Matt Nicholson for a quarter, and that basically discombobulated Sheffield.
mm.
And unfortunately, Sheffield's defense didn't show any sign of seeking to hold Cheshire under 90 after three quarters.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, right, and they built a lead. And at this point, Atiba kind of decided that he'd had enough of his underperforming superstars, is probably the
Mm,
phrase,
yeah,
defense
yeah,
anyway. And he went to his hustle unit.
yeah, yeah,
And he went to his hustle, and this was after, we'll talk about the Kane Rideau thing in a minute,
yeah.
but he went to his hustle unit with Glasgow and Dirk Williams and Prentice Nixon and there was and
Ocherobia was there,
Ocho
there for a
Romeo
bit.
as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
basically, went to a team that he could trust as opposed to a team that was
yeah,
just somnambulating through the game.
yeah,
I think that's a word for sleepwalking. I hope it
yeah,
is. If it is, you can give me a stat the last time I came up with a word as good as that on this show.
yeah, yeah.
I just made it up now. So he went that day. Now, I think what precipitated that was a lovely little interaction with Kane and Rideau.
Yeah, I saw the push. It was. I'm obviously driving and eyes on the road, but I kind of saw the push. I didn't. It looked
Well,
to me like Rideau was uh, shoved to the floor for not much reason, but
well, what happened was as follows. Kane wanted a foul call. He turned to the referee. As he turned to the referee, he's probably, to use a phrase, bitching to the referee.
mm,
Rideau then placed a carefully placed word in his ear. I have no idea what it was,
mm,
but it was probably something on the lines of "stop you," so and whatever.
mm,
And as the Quincy is, he's not a great respecter of personal space,
mm,
so he was pretty close to Kern.
mm,
And there's a great thing about Rideau. Part of me really does admire it, and part of me detests it, but part of me admires it.
mm,
Um, it's always the hothead.
mm.
He
Yeah, yeah,
always goes.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
always the rookie American. It's
yeah.
Max Jones. It's Tyrone Lawrence, who's not been here long. It's
Mm,
Cam Holden. It's Nick Kern. It's the hothead. He knows who he's targeting,
mm,
right? And targeting might sound a bit much because he's not going out there to think, I'm going to do this. But when the opportunity arises,
yeah,
he
yeah,
knows who it is,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right? And it was Kern, and Kern was emotional. Kern had 15 points in 10 minutes. He was flying, he
Mm,
was giving it everything, he's torn to the refs. And he's basically Rideau's had a word in his ear. And that word is to resulted in Kern turning around and pushing it on the floor.
mm,
Um now the twist is, oh, I think Rideau should have got a technical for taunting because I think he just talked to him. I think Kern quite properly got in the sports league. Because of the unfair on sports night Rideau got in the first half, that would have resulted in him being thrown out.
mm.
Now,
Did he definitely get an unsportsmanlike in the first quarter then?
did
Because
he?
I didn't hear that.
Well, unless they cancelled them both out. Well, I don't think. Yeah, as I say. You're looking at it's his second foul. You wouldn't see it on the TV, and the commentators were somewhat blurry about it.
Oh yeah, it is double
Yeah, double
unsportsmanlike.
sports now.
4:03
Yeah,
to
and I, mean,
go.
I thought
Yeah,
that was not,
yeah,
that was a horrible call.
yeah, yeah.
Looking it back, that was a reputation call. And but if you look at the time that Rideau whispers into Kearns' ear, the baseline ref is actually handling the basketball and looking down at that. So all he sees is the push.
Yeah, yeah,
The push was pretty egregious.
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't far off, and it wasn't far off a DQ.
I must admit, as I say, I sort of saw it and I thought, ooh,
Yeah, I mean
he's
that's
lucky to get an unsportsmanlike for
yeah,
that.
I mean, I'll go borderline. As I
Mm,
say, I'd have been happier if they'd seen it all,
mm,
um, but nevertheless, interesting. Yeah, but as I say, he knows who he's going after.
yeah, yeah,
That has to be part of your scout report if you're a coach
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
Cheshire.
yeah. Who's the
No,
hothead?
yeah, don't, you can't get into it. And the problem was, Sheffield were emotionally labile throughout this game, particularly Kern, Chapman, they were flying up and down with Cheshire.
Mm,
It really was. It was a question of, it was a machismo game. And it
mm,
was only when Sheffield went away from that and they brought in some cooler heads. And in particular, Chapman sat down the last 15 minutes of this game. Kern
yeah,
sat down basically the last 12 minutes of this game. And they made their run with Glasgow, Rotino, and
mm,
Nixon and James on the court. And the advantage of that is that everybody knows who the scorers are then.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're not having people fighting over the scores and fighting over the ball, and they're not physically fighting, but people are knowing their role, and it's the five-man basketball team is an ecosystem, and it's a unit, and everybody has to move together. Um, and it was like normal. Sheffield played normal basketball for about 12 minutes. Nixon made some shots, of course, but suddenly Cheshire went quiet. Cheshire slowed down in
Mm,
the fourth quarter. I think part of that was actually that Rideau controlled the ball a lot,
mm,
and the ball had been in Robinson's hands up to then. And I think Rideau controlling the ball probably slowed them down a little bit.
mm,
Um, but also the fact that, suddenly, Rod Glasgow is defending the way that you're meant to defend, getting his body there and not backing away. Jordan Routinho is the same. And Prentice Nixon is playing like he gives a damn,
mm.
which he generally does, to be absolutely fair to him.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not a guy who you'd say would ever appear to be kind of soporific about the game.
Mm,
He's into it. And suddenly the game becomes closer. Cheshire go a little bit tight,
mm.
and it got interesting near the end.
I mean, it still looked like the Knicks were gonna win the game because Sheffield had made some inroads, but they were up 10 with
Yeah,
two
I
minutes
thought it
to
was a
go.
brave move to keep Deloach in the game as long as he
Mm,
did, with
mm,
Skylar White on the court. And
mm,
Skylar looked down at least one, vital three.
mm.
And then Robinson got away in transition, and I think it was a 10-point game. And you thought that's kind of it.
Yeah. So that was with 1:40 to go. Robinson's away, finds Policelli who hits a three, but there was actually a charge on Robinson on the pass, so that would have been the game over with 13 points and
Yeah,
1:40
that
to
was
go.
Glasgow taking the charge.
Yeah,
No, I'm telling you that. I'm telling you, some of those other guys aren't taking that charge.
yeah, yeah,
I try to
yeah,
swat that shot and
yeah,
then
yeah,
shot in his face.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
Glasgow's a veteran, knows the game, knows how to make winning plays.
Mm.
Obviously, the only one of the only two guys in the league that's actually won something when I was around. So I'm happy for him. Albeit we only beat an NBL one team when the whole world was about to go into lockdown.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Happy days.
happy days. But he did the right thing, but those
Yeah.
matter.
Mm.
Because they wasn't beyond the bounds of possibility at the end that they could have got back into that game. And if they got back in that game, that taking that charge, even though it was a bit weak, insofar as the call that was made,
Cool. Yeah,
yeah, even though it was a bit weak, he still put himself in there to do it. That's a
yeah, yeah,
winning play. No one shouts about it, but it's a winning play.
1:20 to go. James denied at the rim, but the ball goes out of bounds for the Sharks. 1:18 to go. James smashes into White, scores, basket good. Somehow there was a T on Skylar for a flop. I could live with the charge. I could live with the block. I could live with the no call, but there's loads of
Hated that
contact
call.
to be
I mean,
called
I
a
hated that
flop.
call. There's been a slightly dubious flop warning earlier on in the game. I just hate that call because the other thing about it is that um, you know, James has knocked him over to make the space to shoot.
Mm,
So you're saying that he's flopped whilst James was in the active shooting, but James has done the jump stop after knocking him over.
Yeah,
So it's not been a layup.
yeah, yeah,
So James takes 2 steps, hits him, as you say, I
yeah.
think you no call,
I think a no call.
hits him, moves him, Skylar falls over, James does the jump stop. The ref doesn't call a flop straight away,
No.
just whistle for the flop, right?
Well, it wasn't actually cleared. The basket had gone in, then the whistle went. It wasn't actually
Yeah.
cleared until they had a
We
conversation
had a
what the call
conversation
was.
about it.
Yeah, yeah,
So if you're going to call the flop, you call it the immediate it happens.
yeah,
It should
yeah,
be the baseline ref that calls it, not the top guy.
yeah, yeah,
And just
yeah,
on that, actually I've got to go back because this is I think this is for our people, Dan, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For our people, right? 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter or something like that. There's a play on the sidelines, and Sheffield have the ball on the inbounds on the sideline in the Cheshire half in front of the Cheshire bench, and Sheffield basically throw it to the baseline and there's nobody there, right? And Rod Glasgow attempts to get it, right? But he steps on the line
Hmm.
as he touches the ball, so it's a violation.
Mm.
Cheshire get the ball, right? Fair enough, right? Where should the ball come in?
He stepped on the baseline,
He stepped on the baseline.
so it's the baseline.
But the ball had never been touched in court.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, so the ball's not in court.
So it should have been,
So it goes back to where it was.
but it didn't, did it? And it makes no difference because it didn't pressure the inbounds. It was in the backcourt.
Yeah, yeah,
As I say, for our people,
yeah, yeah,
just to prove I'm watching.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
what's happened
That's
there? That's
true.
something
Yeah,
strange. And it's the same call as last week I was whinging about in Bristol when they reset the shot clock, when Long
yeah,
caught the ball.
yeah,
Just because you've caught the ball, if you haven't caught the ball in bounds, you haven't, the ball's never been touched in bounds. It's never
yeah,
been.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, details,
Uh,
details, people.
going back, so there's the basket good. Nixon then gets the free throw for the
So I
technical
didn't
for
like
the
that call
flop.
at all.
No,
So
no. So it's
if you're going to
90.
call it, you call it straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 93-100. White then misses a three. James in transition lays in through contact and one. So it's 96-100. White's
Yeah,
fourth
just on
foul.
that call, I thought that was a blatant offensive foul by Ocherobia. Ocherobia was basically Manhattan. He's played offensive line for the Chicago Bears in the paint because he was ahead of the play. It was a fast break. He was ahead of the play,
Yeah, yeah,
and he's doing that thing. And Skyler wasn't trying that hard to get around him.
yeah.
Ocherobia, as I say, it was you would struggle to convince me that some of the rubbish nonsense brushes of illegal screens that are called on the
Mm,
perimeter
yeah.
that you can kind of face block somebody like that
Mm.
and get the and one. I mean, I just again these calls do matter, and I thought that was pretty obvious, but some other tells are wrong.
30 seconds to go. Rideau to the rim. He misses. 24.1 seconds to go. Nixon straight to the basket, lays it in. It's 98-100 from 90-100 to 98-100.
It's Cheshire down 10 is
Yeah,
5, but he's
yeah, yeah,
10. Yeah.
yeah. Timeout, no advance, but Sheffield had only committed 2 fouls in the quarter, so they had to commit three to get them to the free throw line. They took their time a little bit with the third one.
I didn't like their strategy, I'll be honest. I thought, we've seen so many things go wrong. I thought they bailed Cheshire out, particularly with I think maybe the second one when there was maybe only 3 more seconds to get the ball over half court.
Mm,
Because there's 24 seconds left, then Cheshire are taking the ball out in the
mm,
full court to get the full shot clock. It's obviously the smart thing to do. You don't want to have a 14-second shot clock and give Sheffield the ball back when you're only up two. But that does give you the opportunity to try and force an 8-second violation,
mm, mm.
and to overpressure and to see what happens. And if they break that 8-second violation, then you get the ball. Then they get the ball in the half court when you
The
foul.
other thing, I didn't look at it closely enough, but I remember hearing Bob saying there's 22 seconds left on the shot clock and the game clock, and I was thinking, but there was a foul called that resets the shot clock, and it
But
didn't.
there's only 22 seconds. You're not going to get 24-second shot.
Yeah, no, but it was obviously 24.1 when they started. The
Yeah,
first foul was at 22.1,
yeah,
and the shot clock stayed at 22. And I was thinking, surely the shot clock goes off. It doesn't stay
yes,
at
yeah,
22.
yeah. You're right. It should
But
have.
why sometimes with shot clocks on graphics is you get the old number because it disappears, if
Here's
that
the
makes
thing
sense.
about
It
that.
might be
What,
that.
I don't know if that's the way it's meant to be, right? I'm assuming it is because that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But for me, when the ball's in the backcourt, the shot clock should remain on because you kept, for the purposes of 8-second violations, you're asking the referee to perform a mental calculation
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
game
yeah,
clock
yeah,
as
yeah,
opposed to waiting for 15 to go at the shot clock,
yeah. But
right?
you're just looking. The referee should know it's 22.1, so I'm getting to 14.1.
Yeah, well, they should, shouldn't they, Dan?
Yeah, I should know
Yeah.
that. Should know
But
that.
there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, there is a lot of
You know,
things
and
going
so I always wondered about that kind of turn the shot clock off thing, and that's not a point on this game. Just I just always thought,
on in general. Yeah,
who is really thinking about that 8-second call until it's right in front of your face and you can't remember the number.
yeah, yeah,
And we've had some, as I say, we've had some weird calls with
yeah,
backcourts and one shot fouls and stuff,
yeah, yeah.
and that stuff, right? Then I'm damn sure you're not going to be getting an 8-second call, right? So
It
so that.
didn't matter because they committed the three fouls.
But I don't know, as I say, I just think they had a chance. They had a chance
Yeah.
to force a steal, and instead they didn't. You know.
So 17.1 seconds. White to the line, missed the first, made the second, so 98-101.
Yeah.
Timeout, advanced the ball. They looked like they got a little tangled. It was like we're going to go for a quick two, and then we're not going for a quick two, and then oh no, we've run out of time. We have to kick it out for three, and because they'd lost so much clock, Nixon then fired up a three. He missed it, but Archerobia on the offensive rebound put it back 5.5 seconds to go 100-101.
It's a killer one for the coach that because you're down three, 17 seconds to go. It's one shot game.
Mm,
You've got one timeout left. So if you're going to call that timeout at the 17-second point, you've really got to be looking to get a three.
mm,
Because the difference in the end of game situation when you haven't got a timeout to advance the ball as to when you have
mm,
is infinitesimal.
mm,
Because just on time, just on as we saw at the end.
mm.
So you can say, oh, we'll play the two for one game, and we'll get a two, and then we'll foul quickly. But then you're gonna have to go the full court,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
court, hope that they miss, whatever. So you really want to have that timeout in your pocket right at the end if there's a one-shot game and you've got a chance to advance the ball. But I understand why he couldn't. Because if you miss the shot when you're down when you're 17 seconds, you miss the three, you miss any shot at all, you make a bad play, the game's over. So you
yeah.
want to control it. They didn't get anything that they really wanted. I agree. Archerobia made a play to give them a shot
Mm,
on the offensive rebound, but they really didn't get a three that they would be happy with. And yeah, then they're back into the foul game, and ref
yeah.
decided to close his eyes and not call a foul.
Well, it was what I wrote down was Ochirobi. He was a step off him, and then he went towards him, and he sort of soft fouled him,
Yeah,
and the ref didn't call it. And then they lost another couple of ticks, so then he hard fouled him so that it would get called, but they
yeah.
lost a couple of seconds. I always think in that thing, there is part of me thinks, well, if it's not much of a foul, it's in the advantage of the team with the ball that you play on sort of thing. But then if you whack him really hard, if you're saying it has to be a hard foul, you're opening the door for like it's too hard, and then you get double punishment because you won't call a soft foul.
Well, I hear what you say, but my view is a foul's a foul.
Yeah, yeah,
And he Archerobia fouled him, and then he
yeah.
called it, and 2 seconds later he did call it. And I'm like, what are you expecting to happen at that point? You can't suddenly start playing the advantage disadvantage rule
Mm,
in a situation like that. I don't think you
yeah,
can.
yeah.
I think for the reasons that you talk about.
Mm,
At the end of the day, whilst we have games that run till zero on the shot clock, as opposed to Elam endings whereby you've got to score to win,
yeah,
people are going to foul. Refs have to
yeah,
call the fouls, and that's
yeah.
part. It's a strategy of the game, albeit it's a little bit disconcerting probably for fans of other sports. Oh, I
Mm.
know what we'll do. We'll concede a penalty because that'll give us a better chance to win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
what?
yeah,
But that's the way it is. That's the way the
that
sport.
is the way it is.
So,
So they ended up they'd lost. It was down to 2.1, I think it was. Skylar made both of them, and then Kern heaved from inside his own
they
half
didn't have
court.
the
So
timeout.
yeah, they didn't have the timeout, and obviously he couldn't get any closer than the halfway line. He
Yeah,
probably could have got another dribble closer, but then the defender would have been there.
and of
But if
course,
he'd had another 2 seconds, he could have got into the half.
and how do you win games like that? And why do I harp on Dan about defense and mentality and all that stuff?
Because you're boring, Killjoy. You want
Because
to ruin it for
if they hadn't
everybody
given away,
else.
if Nick Kern hadn't pushed LaQuincy Rideau and given away
Yeah,
those two foul shots,
yeah, yeah,
what's the score at the end of the game?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not mean, what's this the whole back,
yeah.
little stuff matters.
Mm.
Discipline matters.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't matter as much at the time because you're in the throw of it, but in close games, you have to be able to control your emotions and your mindset.
mm.
And for, as I said, the Quincy's the best at it, but you know there are some players who'd make it damn easy for him to do what he does.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You know, and as I say, part of me thinks, oh man, he's up to it again, and part of me thinks, yeah, well,
well done.
if you're the idiot who falls for it, you know,
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
are, you know, and you know you've got to put your machismo away. You've got to see the bigger picture, and that's hard for some of these guys. And it's a difference ultimately um, between winning games and losing games. That's the thing. You know, there's a bit of karma comes in. You know, if
yeah.
you do discipline often, you're not going to get the rub of the green. So yeah, you got to deal with it. But yeah, yeah, thoroughly as ever, a thoroughly entertaining game. I
Mm.
mean, I think it's difficult to see how Chapman is not at the end of the line with Sheffield.
Yeah.
For a
He didn't
guy,
play at all in the fourth quarter. I don't think he played in the fourth quarter last
who
week
didn't play,
either.
no, for a guy with that degree of talent, um, to basically be unplayable in a knockout game, you know, in the basically last 15 minutes of a knockout game, you know, that cannot be a pleasant situation to be around.
No.
You know, I mean, you can be as professional as you, players will be as professional as they are, in relation to doing the right thing and going to practice and doing the stuff that they're meant to do. But he will be hurting and he will be frustrated and the coach will be hurting because he knows how, but the coach has to make decisions for the good of the team.
Mm.
And they were better with Glasgow in the game,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Glasgow and Nixon in the game, you know, and ultimately that's on Chapman.
Mm.
It's not on the coach. But, you know, there is a point, and we've talked about it before, you know, about addition by subtraction.
Mm.
And that Sheffield team is whatever you say is underachieving. You know, no final, you know, 500 in the league, a ton of talent.
Mm.
You know, three guys you think Chapman, Nixon, James, who comfortably European players insofar as kind of be it Europe Cup or Champions League level players. You know, really high level players in relation to their ability to make plays. A good supporting cast, but they just haven't gelled.
Mm.
Be it, whether it's personal or whether it's not even like Newcastle who lost six in a row, who are kind of spiraling a little bit. They all seem to have gelled. Newcastle seem to have gelled perfectly. They just don't have the,
Yeah.
it's just they can't find a combination that works.
Mm.
You know, and that might be more talent oriented because Newcastle really don't have any kind of at this point in time guys you would say could play Europe, Champions League or whatever, or a Europe Cup or even Euro Cup maybe. Um, but with Sheffield, it's just chemistry, chemistry, chemistry,
Mm.
and that you know the way they folded in the third quarter, you know, really, you know, when you look at the scoreboard and Cheshire's got 81 points with like 3.5 minutes to go in the third quarter or something like that.
Mm.
You know, as a coach, you know, you're thinking these guys, and they've got no turnovers at half time. You're thinking these guys are kind, not they are playing for the team, but they're also very aware of the fact that they're playing for themselves. And that, you know, that's the numbers telling me that. It's not, I'm not in the locker room, I don't know.
Mm.
But they shouldn't be where they're at. And I think again, you know, it's easy to put it onto the coach. But coach, a team has been there 15 years.
Mm.
Hasn't happened very often. You know, so you know, maybe some of the players just need to have a figure out of what their priorities are and see if they can find a way to come together. For me, it'll be one of those situations where the players would lock everybody out of the locker room and have an air it out.
Mm.
Um, and that might sound a bit dramatic, or they only lost this game, but you know, lost by 2 points, all this stuff. But it's the way things are playing out within the group. It just doesn't seem right. So we'll see where that goes. But as I say, you know, you have to, you know, Chapman is too good. He's really, really, he ran a game at Newcastle. I mean, he had 24 and 13 assists in 25 minutes. He was the best, he was probably, even including Reynolds, the best point guard I've seen at the arena this year.
Mm.
So for him to be in a situation which he's placed himself where he's not playing, you know, for Kane to only be able to play 10 minutes in that game, despite the fact he scored 15 points.
Mm.
Now, Tiba's not playing him for a reason.
Mm.
You know, it means there's a lot of stuff going on outside of those 15 points,
Mm.
which is not being conducive to helping the team.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have to sort this stuff out. Cheshire just Cheshired. You
Mm,
know, they say 10 points is 5 points. They're never too far ahead. They're never too far behind. It's going to come down um, to a little play here or there. In this game, it came down to Kern wiping out Rideau and throwing him on the and pushing him on the floor.
mm. Nixon, 25 points, 4 of 8 from both 2 and 3. James, he was also 8 of 16 shooting for 20 points and 7 rebounds. Williams and Kern, 15 each. They were 11 of 26 from 3. Robinson, 30 points, 9 assists. Policelli, 5 of 10 for 3 for 21 points and 9 rebounds. White, 11. They were only 9 of 33 from 3, but they were 22 of 29 from the free throw line.
Yeah, they put up 13 threes in the first quarter. I noticed. I think we were on pace for 52 guys
Mm,
going. Um, I just think they slowed down in the fourth quarter. I thought Rideau was more ball dominant in the fourth quarter. I don't think that really helped them. You know, Robinson, I mean, I'm saying, oh, he's having the time of his life. But he does just have enough moves and enough strength to be unpredictable when he's attacking the rim to score. And
mm.
again, he got 11 foul shots in this game.
12, I think he was 10 of
12 foul
12.
shots. So, he is, you have to give him a ton of credit for all
Mm.
I'm saying, all the talk and all this stuff, and the fact that he's scoring.
I do
Um,
wonder how he ended up in Ireland last year.
I think he started in Georgia the
Oh,
first
did he?
year. I think
Right,
he
that's interesting.
started. The thing was, he played in I think maybe either a high Div 2 or very low, I think a high Div 2 college, maybe a low Div 1. But the crazy thing about him was because name was circulated in the summer a couple of years ago by some agents, and I still look at some of the agents lists I get. And he his team at college was like 110 and 15
Mm,
when he was playing.
mm,
An absolute, just and won, national championships are very close. So what you saw was kind of a winning player. You also saw someone who was kind of slightly undersized, didn't really seem to be a point guard and had a funky looking shot,
mm, mm,
you know. But I think what you can say is that, he's exceptionally well conditioned.
mm.
His body is in great shape. So he's obviously put the work into that. And sometimes if you're motivated, if you're kind of a little bit undervalued coming out of college because of where
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
TJ Shorts. You look at some of these guys,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
who
yeah.
are who get to the top end. A lot of that, the Michael Jordan story about being cut from his freshman team. You
Yeah,
the motivation of that, because so much about being a pro is about motivation,
yeah.
motivation to go to the gym, to work on your body, to make yourself better, to climb as high as you can climb.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you know that, and I know that because we've been around the guys who
Yeah,
had it,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
we've been around the guys who didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
The guys who didn't,
It's always the ones with more talent that didn't have it as well.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why they,
exactly. Because otherwise we wouldn't have seen them, would they? Because they
yeah,
wouldn't have been
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah,
And and the guys, and this is what frustrates me when people say, "Oh, this guy was a fantastic player." Yeah, he was here for 6 months.
mm,
He did nothing before. He did nothing after because
mm,
he ultimately wasn't utterly committed to it.
mm,
And I'd value commitment and professionalism over talent any day.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm not saying he's untalented, but he's elevated himself by, as I say, by his body, by his skill set, and he's found a way of being effective.
yeah,
Despite the fact that I don't think he's come off the screen and shot the ball once this season.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
he's 6'1" or six foot
yeah,
two. So
yeah.
that is a weird player.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. True.
but it's a weird player who
He's
fits
not
in.
Lily coming round the screen or Joe Anderson coming round the screen and pulling up from 15
So
feet, is
it's
he?
it's
Yeah,
pure
yeah,
effort. It's pure
yeah,
effort,
yeah,
pure body strength,
yeah.
a good touch around the rim, absolutely. But you don't just get that. You've worked on
No,
that,
yeah, yeah,
and a system which absolutely suits him because it's basically giving him driving lanes on every possession.
yeah. It's true.
No one at this point has figured out how to both stop him and stop the shooters.
Yeah, yeah,
So at the moment, it's trending towards, oh, we need to stop the shooters.
yeah, yeah.
Patrick Robertson
That's
having a life.
to every game.
The happiest guy
Yeah,
in Europe, Dan.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Patrick Robinson's agent.
yeah, yeah,
Because he's getting the chance to show out, basically.
yeah,
And to be
yeah.
fair, he's doing it. So all
Yeah,
credit to
yes,
him.
yeah, yeah. play. So it is trophy final next weekend.
Hang on a minute, I'm just covering my eyes.
Yeah. We'll see if we can find a way of doing something Sunday night because
Oh,
obviously there's three other games as well.
no.
But I'm sure we'll work it out. I'm sure we'll work it out and do something next Sunday
Well,
night.
so will the Scots be back? Have they been excommunicated? Have
I
they?
think they're playing Friday. I
They're
think they're
playing
playing
Friday.
Friday.
Oh,
Yeah,
welcome
yeah,
back,
yeah,
guys. It's like a
yeah,
new
yeah,
season for them, isn't it?
yeah,
Not twisting about Caledonia's lack of defense for a couple of weeks is really rather
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah.
No, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great scheduling.
No.
I know they lost the cup game, but even so, it's a bit weird to me, that you have. I get that you want to make sure everyone's got a free run at the cup, so there's no
Yeah,
rest advantages, etc. But you have three games on trophy final weekend, but no league games on cup quarter final weekend.
yeah.
Like, could Caledonia not have fitted in a game somewhere? Anyway, it is
Well,
what.
then somebody'd have to play a double header.
So exactly, which is why it would
Yeah,
have been
yeah,
technically, I suppose, slightly
yeah,
unfair, but
yeah.
I'm not certain.
Right. I've got a 10 o'clock hard deadline.
Yeah, I
Our friend
understand
in the
that, yeah.
north is waiting, so we need to go. Right, we'll be back
Sorry,
next week.
Dan. That's the far north.
The far north. We'll be back next week to do it all over again. But for now, goodbye.
Cheers, man.